Recording in progress.
In progress. One of these times it won't get us.
Never, ever, ever. I will not stand for that. How are you, Dunk?
Mate, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, mate. We were just off air discussing. I had a date night last night, which was lovely.
Yeah,
It's
you
very, very
did.
nice.
What's that like?
It was great. It
Yeah.
was it was really, really cool. And I'm gonna have a date 2 weeks coming up.
You son of a bitch.
In a different part of the world. I discussed, actually, just told the kids um,
How did that go down?
2 nights ago. Well, we were really, really dreading it. But thankfully, like our kids have, like, they love their grandparents and they love spending time with them. And they're currently away and they're away for a month. And I said, and we framed it by, Supper and Bubba
All in the pitch.
yeah, it's all in the pitch. It's
All in the
all
pitch.
in the sales pitch. Supper and Bubba are coming back in a few weeks. How would you guys like to spend 2 weeks with them? What? Amazing.
Nice. Well played. We talked about when we moved up to New South Wales from Melbourne, we talked about the idea of like coming up here and just saying that we were here on holiday. The
Mm.
2 weeks on holiday, and then like when they're like, oh, this is amazing, we love it, and I'll be like, how about we stay? Yeah, we should definitely stay. Okay, here's the house.
And the kids are like, I came up with that idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice. All right, so today we're going to do the top three myths in health and exercise.
Correct. Yep. I think this is a really good one because there's so much ambiguity out there when it comes to, well, there's so much information that is just kind of coming at us like icebergs. And I think it's just great to demystify a lot of the stuff that people are receiving. And yeah, let's give it a crack. Would you like
Nice.
to begin?
To kick it off,
Yeah.
yes, why not?
Yeah.
Uh, there was a ton of sort of things that flooded into my head, but the first one is that more is better.
Oh, you got me, boy.
Yeah,
Straight up. Literally, more is better. Yeah.
more is better. Yeah, more
So
is
let's flesh
better.
that out.
More exercise, more intense diet, like double down on all the things, and that um, you'll reap the benefits. And I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. Like there's always a truth in myth. So like I think that's like all good myths, they start with good intentions,
Hmm.
right? And yes, you do need to work really hard and on both your diet and your lifestyle and your exercise. But there is a tipping point where it's a law of diminishing returns,
Yep.
and you're dieting too hard, which means that you end up not doing as much because you're not feeding your body as well. You don't recover as well. So again, there's just this law of diminishing returns where progressive overload in your sessions, which is where we build strength on strength, each week doesn't occur, and therefore you're just spinning in a wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think interestingly, like I wanted to chat about this with you. Was what was your like, because it ties in for me, which is really prevalent on social media at the moment, is this hustle culture.
Yep.
This idea again that there's everyone has the same amount of hours in a day, and if you haven't made your first million by the time you're 21, are you even really allowed to walk the face of this earth without hanging in shame? uh, yeah, so I'd be curious on your take on all of it.
So just reiterating what you've said, this more is better. The first two kind of lanes that come to mind for me is the biological approach to it and then the philosophical approach. The biological approach is, when we're training, we have that elevated cortisol, which is generally speaking a good thing. We put our body under stress and our body can recover. But the issues that come to mind is if we're putting our body under a great deal of stress outside of our training process and we're in that continuous elevated level of cortisol, that's going to be that's going to present problems if they're coupled hand in hand. And if you are this person with the mindset of more is more, you're going to just be in this constant cycle of a stress state. So I think there's an issue there, and then there's the philosophical approach of this more is more, more is more, where we're just constantly chasing and chasing and chasing and just not being satisfied with where we are, which brings us to the hustle culture that you've been talking about. I think so many of us struggle to just take a breath and pause and be grateful for the position that we are in, not only in the world today, but even if you were to take a look glacially in the history of where we are at right now, like just being able to take a breath and say, "Fuck!" Like we are in a point of time where we live currently, where there are no, you know, our lives aren't imminently at threat. We can walk this world with grace and gratitude. And I just think a lot of people do struggle to see that at various different points in time.
Yeah, particularly in our society, it's obviously quite prevalent, isn't it? And I think gratitude's a privilege, but it is we live in a privileged world, and so it's pertinent to be grateful, and to understand the position where you're at. And I think it just to me gets to the point of like what's the point? Like what's the point in life?
Yeah,
What do you want out of your life? And for me, like I really, I don't necessarily crave like happiness, but I guess peace. And for me, the constant circling of this idea that you need more is only detrimental to that as a byproduct, because you're never going to get peace that way. And it's again another thing that starts out with good intentions, and you want to be productive. I want to be productive in my life, but you also want to sit back and enjoy everything that you have achieved. And unfortunately, greatness is not coming to everybody. Otherwise, it's not greatness. It's just normal,
yeah,
and it's okay to be normal too. Uh,
totally.
the world needs average people.
It certainly does, and you can be. And I'm just going to push back a little bit on gratitude being a privilege. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is gratitude being a skill, and it's a skill that you can cultivate and you can harness. And I might be sitting here from my privileged position saying that, but I try my best to be able to cultivate that skill regardless of what external environment I am in. And I go through tougher times than others. Sorry, I go through tougher times at different points in my life, and to be able to cultivate that strength muscle of gratitude, to be able to say, well, why is this point in time special for me as opposed to other times, is a muscle that you can flex just like anything. And what may appear to be average then all of a sudden becomes really powerful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, it's a fair statement. I think where I was sort of my mind was thinking is like, if you're in Ukraine right now, it's going to be tough to really, see so much gratitude in
Really
that
tough.
environment. And there's obviously people that have all sorts of trials and tribulations around the world, but like you said, like it doesn't serve to wallow and be a victim. Not that I'm accusing any of those people of doing that, but
No,
they're flexing that gratitude muscle can improve, yeah, everyone's life.
100%. And to come full circle, to bring this back to the exercise and I suppose analogy and paradigm, to be grateful for where we are physically, and to be able to approach exercise in a longevity paradigm, then we need to be able to do this in a way that is going to serve us in the long term. And I think a lot of us with that kind of filter of hustle culture feel like they want results yesterday, as opposed to in 6 months' time
Yeah,
or a year's time. And the approach of being able to build really simple habits day after day that can serve us long into the future. And I see this just all the time with my coaching clients. And it's amazing to see how transformative a simple approach to health and training can be by just stacking really simple habits. And then it obviously comes down to what your goals are. But once you have those simple foundations, all of a sudden you have the ability to be able to get a little bit more deeper into the weeds.
for sure. So, what was your top exercise myth?
Well,
The one that I didn't steal.
the the ones that you didn't steal, I think there's still a big mindset around cardio is key to fat loss.
Right. Yeah. Fair.
If I want to be able to lose weight, I just need to, run and run and run.
Yeah.
And I think I love running. I love cardio. And I think it's a wonderful tool. But I have always felt that and through my investigation of science, have known that the complementary activities of mobility, strength training are so important as building blocks and foundations for not just fat loss, but for overall health and wellness.
Yeah, nice. I can corroborate all of that. Like cardio is part of the picture, but it's definitely not the whole pie when it comes to fat loss. I really struggle. Like obviously we're exercise professionals, and so it's pertinent to promote strength training and cardio as being the sort of peak of what wellness looks like. But I also just feel like we've lost the art of just in finding a creative way to exercise, right? Like, obviously we have to move because we're so much more sedentary than we ever were, 100 years ago, let alone 500 years ago. But like, why can't you play a sport?
100%.
Bouldering, like dance, like it's just moving. And yeah, like resistance training and building muscle, it's mobility is really having its turn in the spotlight at the moment. They're all great things to do, but again, same as cardio, like they don't have to be the be all and end all for health and wellness space. Like find something that you enjoy and do that more often than not, and then sprinkle on some of the shit that you don't enjoy that that you need.
Yeah. And I think that comes down to the once again the paradigm that we live in now, where everything is categorized, everything is compartmentalized. Our health and wellness needs to be put into boxes of uh, cardio, which consists of blocks of A, B, C, and D. But one of the great things I like to ask my clients is, what do you enjoy doing? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Dancing is known to be a really, really powerful thing for those in, blue zones to be able to just do. And I guarantee you that's the benefits that you're receiving from dancing, if you enjoy it, is not just the cardio aspect. It's the connection. It's the laughter, and it's the smiling associated with it. If you're able to express yourself at the same time as being able to sweat and laugh and smile, I guarantee your body is receiving a hell of a lot more positive signals than just sweating it out over a 10-kilometer run.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Another cool thing, I was having a discussion with a really great a friend of mine who's an osteopath. His name's Brett Weiner, and one thing he asks a lot of his patients is, do you enjoy cooking? Not do you cook, but do you enjoy cooking? And if the answer to that in very like for a lot of people, it might be yes. That's just like such a door to open up. It's like you're enjoying doing something that's giving to you. So you lean into that and you can all of a sudden start to flesh out something that is just so beneficial for your health and your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's finding those things that light you up, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Rolling on to my number two then of health and wellness myths, I was a little torn. I'm debating which way to go, but I think the most common one, like this, there's two that I have got in mind that I think that are probably more just in our space that we would see like as exercise professionals, but then the one for general population that has been around for years, and it's probably why it's still around today, is that weight training will make girls bulky.
Yeah, love that. Let's talk about that.
It might be just a really quick conversation because it won't.
That's that's it.
I guess that's it,
Full
right? Like,
stop.
so full stop. I guess just the like the etymology of where it's come from is this, you're seeing bodybuilding women be quite bulky, and then more recently CrossFit women be quite bulky. And I think, obviously performance enhancing drugs has a lot to do with that, but also the stature and body type of women that would be attracted to those types of sports are women that will put on muscle quite quickly,
Mm-hmm.
even relatively. But like for the other 99% of women, it just won't. You just you're starting off. Women can put on the same amount of muscle as men. It's just proportionally they're so much smaller on average that if you put on 5% of muscle mass and I put on 5% of muscle mass, obviously at 90 kilos versus your 65, 70, it's just going to be a lot different and a lot more for me. And then, when you're talking, most women are looking at fat loss, or at least were, then the idea of spending time trying to put on muscle with which you're going to need to eat a lot, obviously also doesn't actually tie in with what a lot of people want to do initially. So it's just a program. Like I used to say to people, I trained 5 days a week for 10 years trying to put on muscle.
Exactly right.
And I have to say, I'm still pretty skinny. Like I would still put me in the skinny category. It actually lends itself towards the conversation where I wanted to go to in the health professional world, which was this social media sort of mix up that you had to train, and if you in order to have any authority in the space, you have to look a certain way. I
Mm.
need to look like I have, or at least did, step on stage and be an absolute giant. And for 20 years of training, like what my physique is currently is a failure. And
Mm.
so therefore my any opinion that I have in the health and wellness space is invalid. And
Mm.
I, of course, because I'm biased, rally against that notion completely, because although have trained to want to gain strength and muscle, I also trained for skill and mobility and longevity. And I just never wanted, like, you're training in the extremes at that point, right? Like if I trained twice a day, I recovered, I had performance enhancing drugs, I nailed on my diet. Sure, I could have got further with my physique, but it would have been at the detriment of other parts of my life,
Mm-hmm.
socializing, connection, possibly longevity. Like there's other facets to wellness that I think are super valuable that completely get missed in the sort of sphere that is social media, this echo chamber where people just get to shout their opinions and have
And
them validated by the small minority.
and why are we doing this? Where are we doing this to be a role model and an inspiration for our clients? And if you were to lean towards, sacrificing your time with your family, your connection with your friends, is that any kind of inspiration to be leaning and delivering to clients that you want to be able to, kind of then provide value to? I'd say no. Um, yeah, leaning on and building on what you're talking about, lifting heavy for women, I'll just kind of extend that a little bit further to older adults should avoid lifting heavy as a myth as well.
Gotcha. For half a second there, I was like, wait, what?
Well,
Okay, that's the myth. Yeah,
that
gotcha.
is, yes. Speaking of myths, and this is still, I think, a very, very
Yeah.
common.
And kids too.
Yeah, and kids as
Like,
well.
you know, within reason, and with good form and under control.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you can flesh that out. I just want to just sit on the misconception of older adults, and I'd probably argue that it's just as important, if not more important, for older adults to be in the gym lifting heavy and challenging their bodies, because our ability to be able to retain muscle diminishes as we get older. So to be able to challenge yourself and put your body under a certain level of stress is going to prepare you for stress, balance, mobility, all the rest of it. But it's going to prepare you for these inevitable moments later on in life where you're going to possibly fall over, break a hip, and then we all know it's potentially downhill from there at a really rapid rate.
One of
So
the number one killers, isn't it? You fall, you go into hospital, you don't go back out. And one of the number one ways in which you can reverse engineer that outcome is by being stronger, right?
stronger, having muscle density and being able to support a fall. And I
Bone
always
density.
pardon, yeah, bone density, and also, being able to almost dress rehearse falls and fall with grace, and have the ability for your stabilizers to be able to do that. But if you do fall, to have the preparation biologically to be able to sustain such a fall, and that's going to come from challenging your body. One other thing I wanted to talk about with the cardio aspect is, so many people do rely solely on cardio, and if they are limiting their calories and just going hard on cardio, they may go hard with that and lose, say, 15 kilos. But what a lot of people don't think about is, generally speaking, uh, if you are not challenging your body or building muscle at that same rate, you're generally losing a significant amount of muscle. I think there's talk of 50-50 when you are losing that weight. And if you're losing 50% of muscle, of 15 kilos of muscle, and then inevitably, if you're going really hard with this in an unsustainable fashion, you're going to rebound back and at some stage put that weight back on. All of a sudden you're back to where you were originally, 15 kilos, if not more, and you have not put that muscle back on.
Yeah, 100%.
which
Couldn't agree.
which is not a pretty place to then finish up in.
No, and that's why I think it's valuable to point it out, right? Like cardio is not a bad thing, but in a well-balanced program, if you're asking for my opinion and the whys and wherefores, that's it, right? Like you need to be building muscle in order to maintain it through a fat loss phase, in order that when you come out the end of that fat loss phase, you don't completely rebound to where you were.
And
Um,
and
just
don't
what
get me wrong, like I'm not. I don't think either of us are demonizing cardio work. I love cardio. I think it's so great for my mental health. I love it. It's fantastic, and a whole host of other things. But it needs to be as part of a greater picture.
100%. 100%. You're right, my friend. What's your numero dos?
Okay. Um, well, I talked about uh, adults. That was one that I wanted to discuss. Give me a sec. Yeah, I've done more is better, but you did that. Cardio is the key to fat loss, and strength training is going to make you bulky. Um,
Sorry. I tell you what, I've got one more. We can discuss that while you think.
Uh,
I um I wanted to talk about the power of posture and the idea that if you have poor posture, you have poor performance and poor outcomes with the injury.
That's right.
Um, because there was, and throughout my career, this is an area that I've sort of flip-flopped on a little bit as well. And I think hopefully I've got to a more moderate place with it. But there's this ideology that if you don't have perfect posture, then that's why you're hurt. Or if you have this forward head posture, this is why your neck hurts. If you have an arch in your an overarch in your lower back, that's why your lower back is going to be sore. And also, like you could be improving your performance with improving your performance. Now, again, with most myths, there's truth to those statements for some people, but then we also see that there's just as many outcomes whereby people have those same posture problems and don't have the sore neck or the sore lower back. And so there's not necessarily a correlation where there's that causative effect. And I think we just have to have a conversation around how much time and emphasis you're going to place on training these elements, when like just getting someone stronger is going to improve their performance, and their potential for injury at a much greater rate than if you're doing some of these sort of really lower intensity postural exercises, which is I think where I'm sort of getting towards. And yeah, not that I'm saying that none of it has any place, but I guess the whole functional training myth, I think probably needs addressing in that what is functional, right? Like it was always when I first started doing this, it was like free weights versus machines, and machines were completely dysfunctional. But again, when you flesh out the logic of it, it's like, well, a strong muscle is a strong muscle,
Mm, mm.
right? Like if I spend all my time on machines and I just train machines like a bodybuilder, I can create some dysfunction there, right? Or what I create is a body that is probably quite stiff and immobile. But I think if you train free weights, if you train machines, if you train with some intention for athletic performance, like you're going to develop a body that suits the environment that you fit it for, and a body that has strong connective tissue, strong big muscles in it, has the capacity to outperform a body that only ever got on the ground and did one exercise for 3 minutes,
Mhm.
holding it in a static position. um yeah, that's the sort of myth that I wanted to rally against, which is kind of interesting for me because it's definitely a place of where my education came from.
Yeah, and I think a lot of coaches have come from, a really deep biomechanical understanding. If you come from like the Czech Institute and things like that, it can be you can go really deep into the weeds, and you can start to just be in that lane to be able to understand. And I think resistance training, any form of resistance training and load that you can put your body under is going to be a valuable experience. And if a coach is stopping somebody who may have, certain levels of anxiety of putting, they're just dogmatic about saying there's only free weights, the machines are the devil, or they might be a calisthenics coach that, completely rules everything else out. Basically, dogma is going to be a very, very limiting ideology when it comes to these types of things. So to be able to do any form of movement is going to be a beneficial experience. There's place for, engaging in postural analysis and being able to, and to be able to input certain things that are going to, correct certain posture imbalances. But I think you can get really, really deep into the weeds where honestly also, you know, comes back to just either yourself or your clients will just start to lose interest, and you just won't have them for long enough.
Yeah. And that's where I was coming from. I love the check model. I love the information that you can gather throughout that. But I think it's like putting it all into a cupboard and then just being able to selectively use that information when and where it's appropriate.
Spot on. This has been great, mate. I think we've had a good little dive into it. There was a hell of a lot of crossover there, and I think it's these are all really valuable lessons that aren't just applicable to, from my perspective, it's not just applicable to my clientele. It's a journey that I've been on a personal level as well. I've been through demonizing certain levels of the health and fitness world, and then come full circle to be able to have a less dogmatic philosophy and approach to training.
Yeah, nice, mate. Same.
Sick. I think we'll round it up unless you've got anything else to talk about.
Done for today, my friend. That was me
Uh,
talked out.
well done, Dunk. I'll see you very shortly.
See you, bro.